Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to another story. Story number 6 is by Reddit user Claire Temple. As always, a link to the original story will be linked in the description below. Any characters or buildings shown in this video are not meant to be actual representations of how the people or places actually look in real life. The animation is for entertainment purposes only. Now that that's all out of the way, let's get into the story. This is something that happened to me 5 or so years ago. I was fresh out of university with my degree in international development. I wanted to help undeserved communities develop meaningful projects and see more of the world. I was young. I was naive. Eager to get started, I took one of the first jobs that offered me a position. It wasn't something I necessarily wanted to do, but it was adjacent to my interests and, more importantly, took me to a place I had never been before. I loved everything when I arrived. It was beautiful, sunny, and green. My new coworkers, all local staff, were amazing and so kind. My boss invited me to play soccer on Sundays with his family. My fellow project coordinator would go out dancing with me on the weekends. My roommate, a fellow expat working in development as well, was a fun and spunky woman I adored. I felt so blessed. Then one day, it changed. I was walking downtown with a friend. There was a vegetable and fruit market that had great fresh produce directly from the farmers growing it. It was about a 20-minute bus ride from my apartment, so not close, but not incredibly far either. My friend and I loaded up and began walking over to a quiet corner to call a cab to help us haul our goods back. Then I heard it. Hey! Miss 123 Main Street. It took me a second to realize he was shouting my address. I turned around to see a man hanging out of his car, slowly crawling along the road with us. My friend recognized my address too. She turned to me and asked, "Do you know him?" I had never seen him before. He kept shouting, "Yeah, you're living in the back house on the second floor, right?" That made it even worse. I lived on a big suburban lot with 2 houses. One in the front where my landlady and her family live, and the second in the back. The second house was split into 2 apartments. The bottom floor housed 2 students, while I lived on the second floor with my roommate. You couldn't see the second house from the road, much less the stairway that led to the second floor. My heart was pounding. I wanted to shout back at the guy, but I was scared. I was a 22-year-old woman living in a foreign country, and I didn't want to draw attention. I didn't know how people would react. I didn't know how he would react. So we walked. My friend tried to comfort me, saying that maybe he knew my landlady's family. I was probably the only redhead in the whole country. He could be a neighbor I hadn't met. The encounter didn't leave me. It stayed in my mind. A week or so passed, and I stopped glancing behind my back whenever a car drove by. I started to feel secure again. Then he showed up again. I was walking home from work. It was getting dark. My office was a 15 to 20 minute stroll from my apartment, perfect as a quick way to stretch my legs. I was halfway home when I felt someone watching me, then the slow crawl of a car sliding up beside me. I knew it was him without even looking. "Miss 123 Main Street," he said. "Why are you shy?" I ignored him and kept walking. There was no one around. It was getting dark. "Come on," he cajoled. "Let me give you a ride. I know where you live." Not reassuring. I started to feel my chest tighten. I wanted to call someone, but didn't know what he'd do if I reached for my phone. I was practically jogging now, but he just sped up to match my pace. "Listen, woman." Now he was angry, his voice hard. "You don't just ignore a man like that." I wondered what I'd do if he stopped the car. He looked fit, young. He could probably catch me. He could hurt me. So I did something that, in retrospect, seemed absolutely bizarre. I yelled at him, wildly, rabidly. I did it in my first language. Not what they spoke in this country. Not a language he would ever have heard before, probably. I screamed curse words and threats, anything I could think of. I'll never forget the confused fury on his face. I could see a woman at a bus stop at the intersection ahead. If I got to her, maybe she'd help. Maybe he'd get scared off. By the time I got to the woman, he was gone. I kept walking home, looking behind me with every step. I told my roommate about what had happened. She told me not to bother reporting it to the police as they were corrupt and wouldn't do anything anyway. When I told my boss, he told me the same. He said he had a baseball bat and would come whenever I called. I saw the man again 2 weeks later. He was sitting in his car, parked in front of the gates to my apartment. I was about to take out the trash, but retreated before he could see me. I told my landlady, and when she went over to confront him, he drove off. This continued for weeks. Not every day, but once or twice a week. He was always there, waiting. I took cabs to and from work. I never traveled alone. I barely slept, waiting for him to break in and kill me. On my last weekend abroad, he almost did just that. I went out drinking with a group of friends, 4 of us in total. We were celebrating the end of my contract, and I was happy to go home in a few days. I couldn't wait to see my family. I couldn't wait to put an ocean between me and the man. We had beers at a local bar, a 5 to 10 minute walk max from my apartment. When it started to get late, around 1 a.m., we tried to get a cab, but it was impossible. The roads were jammed and people were everywhere outside. Cabs couldn't even get to us. Even though others warned us not to, we had the thought of just walking home. It would be faster than calling a cab. We'll be fine. We're a group of 4. No one will hassle us, right? We got halfway there when we had to cross the main road. There were no street lights. The road was absolutely empty, not a single car in sight. We crossed the road. After a few minutes, we were backlit with the bright headlights of a car coming up. We glanced back, a cop car, 2 men in the front, and I knew, even though I couldn't see from the bright lights in my eyes, he was driving. He was a freaking cop. Hey, Miss 123 Main Street. Nice night, yeah? My friends immediately knew who he was. I could see how nervous they were. We were alone on a dark, empty street in the middle of the night. They were cops, so they were armed. No one would intervene, probably. Too dangerous. You girls need a ride? He leered. His friend, who I could see now, was grinning hugely. My last few days, I thought, and this is how it ends. We sped up our pace. I don't know what our plan was, other than to get away. Then I heard one of the doors of the car open as the passenger jumped out. I don't think I've ever been so scared in my life, although I didn't dare turn back to see. We were at the turn to my street now. 2 minutes more to get to safety. The car was right behind us. Whoever had gotten out of the car was right behind us. 2 of my friends were ahead now, while another clutched my hand and dragged me along. Then, out of nowhere, another car appeared. They were coming from the opposite direction, illuminating us all. When they slowed to see what was going on, I've never been so grateful in my life. It was an older couple, and they looked concerned. I think they knew something very bad was about to happen. I heard the car door swing open. I almost got hit as they sped past us in a hurry. The other car stayed, watching. They offered to escort us home, driving alongside just in case. But I knew he wouldn't come back, not tonight. I still took a cab with my friends to their place for the night. We took my roommate with us, just in case. Nothing happened after that. My last 2 days were uneventful, although I couldn't shake the feeling that he might show up at any given moment. Driving to the airport, all packed up and ready to go home, my cab got pulled over by a cop. My stomach dropped. I could not breathe. It wasn't him, although it could have been. It wasn't until I got on the plane, until I landed in my home country, that I finally felt that terror leave me. I still get nervous when cars drive up behind me. It's never him, but still, you just never know. I hope you guys enjoyed that story. Like mentioned at the beginning of this video, full permission was given to me by Reddit user Claire Temple to read on this channel. If you or anyone you know have a story that would like to be read on here, fill out the form that's linked in the description below. Lastly, don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you won't miss any more of my videos. I'm trying to one day do YouTube full time to bring you guys more content. The more of you guys that subscribe, the faster that will happen. I hope you guys all relax and have a great night.